Dear all, welcome to Learn, Unlearn and Relearn, an online program in chemistry. I'm excited to have you in the class and look forward to your contributions in the learning process. I thank God for giving me this opportunity to do something at the cause of education.
Dear all, I am very happy and excited to meet you all through this new course, Asymmetric Synthesis. On completion of this module, you will learn to illustrate asymmetric synthesis, apply Cramp's rule and Prolog's rule, analyze the Falkenhayn modification, develop the skill of solving problems in asymmetric synthesis. Let us move into the course. A carbonyl carbon is sp2 hybridized. So this is your carbonyl carbon, which means that the carbonyl carbon and the three other atoms attached to it lie in the same plane. So all these three, they are in the same plane, which is planar. When a nucleophile tries to attack this carbonyl carbon, it could attack from either side. So this nucleophile can attack the carbonyl carbon from either side of the plane with equal ease or with equal probability. In the case of benzaldehyde, the phenyl group is also flat. So the nucleophilic attack on benzaldehyde could also take place from either side with equal ease. What is the outcome of this attack? Now, this carbonyl carbon in benzaldehyde is a prochiral carbon. Therefore, when a nucleophile attacks this carbon, a new asymmetric center is created and a pair of enantiomers is formed with equal ease, resulting in the formation of a racemic mixture. And a racemic mixture is a mixture that contains 50% of dextro and 50% of lead. What is asymmetric synthesis? When a new chiral center is formed in a molecule which already contains one or more chiral centers, then two diastereomers are formed in unequal amounts. The reaction is known as asymmetric synthesis, and the existing chiral center or centers bring about asymmetric induction. When a molecule has a chiral center and when a new chiral center is formed in the same molecule, we end up with a pair of diastereomers, and this process we call it as asymmetric synthesis, and the existing chiral center bring about the asymmetric induction. Let us take this molecule where we have a ketonic group, and this ketonic group is attached to a chiral center, and this chiral center has three different groups. We have a methyl group here, we have a phenyl group, and we have hydrogen, which can be designated as large, medium, and small. Now, when this carbonyl carbon undergoes a nucleophilic addition with organometallic or metal hydride reagents like lithium aluminum hydride or sodium borohydride, two diastereomeric products are formed, and you get a pair of erythro and trio isomers, out of which only one predominates. This carbonyl carbon is prone to a nucleophilic attack, and we are going to generate a new chiral center over here, and this molecule already has a chiral center, and therefore this process we call it as asymmetric synthesis. And this chiral center is going to control the stereochemistry of this prochiral carbon, and therefore it enables the process called asymmetric induction. This molecule can exist in three different types of conformation. Now, the difference arises in the presence of these two groups. Now, in this first conformation, we see the R group is eclipsed by methyl, which is our medium group, or the R group is eclipsed by a phenyl group, which is our large group, or the R group is eclipsed by a small group, which is hydrogen in this case. The molecule can be drawn like this in the Newman projection. The relative configuration of the predominant isomer, whether it is going to be erythro or trio after the asymmetric induction, that is after the nucleophilic addition has taken place, is predicted by Cramp's rule based on the reactive conformation, which is the least energy conformation in which a chemical reaction takes place. Therefore, the molecule takes up the least energy conformation for this particular reaction to occur, or this asymmetric synthesis to occur. Therefore, for the given molecule, there could be several conformations out of which the chemical reaction preferred to proceed via the conformation having the least steric strain. The basis of Cramp's rule is predicting the conformation which is having the least steric strain. Let us now investigate a molecule where the existing asymmetric center would have a small, medium and large group denoted as S, M and L respectively. In the reactive conformation, the carbonyl group would orient itself in such a way that it will rest between the small group and the medium group, and that particular conformation is considered as the most stable conformation. The attacking nucleophile would prefer to attack from the smaller side or the smaller group, resulting in the predominant formation of one diastereomeric product. So one should always remember that the carbonyl group has to be placed in such a way that it is flanked by the medium and the small group. So if you look at look this molecule from this side, we can see the carbonyl group is flanked between the medium and the small group. And if you can draw the structure of this, it would be like this. So I have an oxygen here, so I have an R here, I have my methyl here, and I have my hydrogen here, and I have my phenyl here. So I am viewing this particular molecule from this direction. So, and this structure is also equally bright. This is now known as Cram's rule, and when the starting material is a pure enantiomer, the product mixture would show predominance of one of the enantiomer. According to Cram's rule, we need to understand the very basic principle that the reactive conformation is the one in which the carbonyl group would orient itself in such a way that it will rest between the small group and the medium group, which is your Cram's rule. Let us take this example. Now this molecule has a chiral center over here, and we are trying to do a nucleophilic addition using phenyl magnesium bromide. You can see here, according to Cram's rule, the structure has been drawn. So we have our carbonyl group, we have our hydrogen, we have our phenyl group here, we have our medium group here, and we have our small group here. Now the nucleophilic addition can take place from either direction, but according to Cram's rule, the nucleophile prefers to attack from the side of the smaller group. Now when this attack occurs, your OH will move towards left and your nucleophile will be here. Now this particular reaction will result in the formation of a erythroanthrio isomer where the trio isomer predominates. So this rule is proved to be effective in predicting the major product in most of the asymmetric synthesis. So what we are seeing is nothing but an asymmetric synthesis where we have created a new chiral center, and this creation of this new chiral center is induced by the existing chiral center, and therefore the phenomenon is called asymmetric induction. Similarly, if you take up this particular molecule, again the same phenomenon occurs, but the difference is here you have hydrogen, but here you have a phenyl group here. But you can see here there is a difference in the formation of the product. In the earlier case, it was trio, which is 80% and erythro is 20%, and in this case the erythro isomer predominates with 80% and trio is just 20%. Now these are the exceptions which were observed in the early cases, which are explained on the basis of further conformational arguments. Now the argument goes according to Felkin. So Felkin pointed out that the reactive conformations of Cram had severe eclipsing strain between the R group on carbonyl center and L group on the carbonyl carbon. So when this R group changes or when it becomes bulkier, there is going to be a lot of eclipsing effect or eclipsing strain between these two groups, which was first pointed out by Felkin. So Felkin proposed a staggered conformation wherein the nucleophile approached the carbonyl carbon from the least hindered side. The transition state proposed by Felkin had a very major difference between the transition state that was proposed by Cram. In the transition state proposed by Cram, the R group attached to the carbonyl carbon and the large group were eclipsing each other, whereas in the transition state proposed by Felkin, the carbonyl group and the large group were perpendicular to each other. So the major difference in these two approaches is the difference in the dihedral angle between the carbonyl carbon and the asymmetric carbon. Now, according to the transition state proposed by Felkin, and when we try to understand the attack, so the nucleophile attacks from the top, so the nucleophile attacks, so when it attacks, it will push this carbonyl oxygen here, that results in the formation of OH. So you can see I have methyl here, hydrogen here, and phenyl here, so phenyl here, and my nucleophile has attacked, so I have my nucleophile here and my OH and my R. Now, what would happen if my nucleophile attacks from this side? So when my nucleophile attacks from this side, my O will move towards this side, so it becomes O minus and later it becomes OH. So I have my OH here, I have my attacked nucleophile here, and I have my R group here, and I'm not disturbing the atoms on my adjacent carbon, which is the chiral carbon. So I have my methyl here, I have my hydrogen here and my phenyl here, and when I do a 360-degree rotation of my front carbon, I end up with this structure, and you can see these two structures are same. So both Felkin transition state and Cram transition state produce the same molecule, but the argument was different, which was proposed by Felkin. An improvement over Felkin model was later proposed, and it was called Felkin-Nugent or Felkin-Hahn model, which suggested that the nucleophile does not attack the carbonyl carbon exactly from the top, rather it would attack the sp2 center of the carbonyl at an angle between 95 degree to 105 degree relative to the carbonyl bond axis, favoring an attack from the least hindered direction. So according to the Felkin-Hahn model, where we have our medium group and small group and the large group, and we have our carbonyl carbon perpendicular to the phenyl group, the attack would take place not exactly opposite from the larger group, rather the attack of the nucleophile preferentially takes place at a site closer to the small group. So an attack from this side is not favored, so the nucleophile attacks from the side of the smaller group at an angle, and this angle we call it as Bürgi-Dunitz angle. This differed from earlier models that suggested a perpendicular attack. The other important consideration is that the nucleophiles prefer to attack carbonyl not at a bond angle of 90 degree, but an angle closer to the classic tetrahedron bond angle, which we call it as Bürgi-Dunitz angle. And finally, we end up with a Cram's product. So when the nucleophile attacks from this side, you can see I have my, when the nucleophile attacks from this side, so I have my the small, medium and large group. So when it attacks, this oxygen moves down and this alkyl group moves down. I end up with the Cram's product. So the argument goes like this. So in the Cram's rule, the carbonyl group prefers to be flanked between a medium and a small group. Later it was modified by Felkin, where it was suggested that the carbonyl group and the large group they are perpendicular in direction, and later the Felkin-Hahn model proposed that the attack takes place not exactly at a 90 degree, but at a slightly at a deviated angle called Bürgi-Dunitz angle. So the Kram's rule was modified by Felkin and later by Felkin and Maury. This trajectory of approach which we were discussing is what we call it as Bürgi-Dunitz trajectory. To summarize, in this module, you had learned to define asymmetric synthesis is a process in which a new chiral center is created, and this new chiral center is induced by the presence of existing chiral center, and the process we call it as asymmetric synthesis, and the induction we call it as asymmetric induction. And you had learned to illustrate Kram's rule, which states that in a molecule, when a nucleophilic attack takes place at a carbonyl carbon which already has a chiral center, the carbonyl carbon prefers to have the most stable conformation in which the carbonyl group is flanked between, or it is placed between, a medium and a small group. And in this module, you had learned to interpret Felkin-and modification, which says that in the Kram's transition state, the preferential attack of the nucleophile is not exactly at a 90 degree, but according to Felkin-and modification, the angle of attack of the nucleophile to the carbonyl carbon is slightly deviating from 90 degrees, say around 103 degrees, which we call it as Bürgi-Dunitz modification or angle. Thank you for watching asymmetric synthesis. Please subscribe our YouTube channel, Infoledge.